Guys, this is SWTOR Tutorials, and today I'll be giving the 4.0 class guide for the Tactics Vanguard. And I got a couple of requests for this video, so again, if you guys want to send me requests in the comments, I'll do my best to do them. I can't promise everything, but I'll do what I can. So getting right into it, my style, guys, is just to briefly gloss over the discipline and then get to the utilities and the rotation. So this is a very powerful burst spec tactics, and it's a little bit more powerful if you understand the debuffs. First, you want to have your bleed on the target because it increases the damage by bleeding targets by 3%. Second, your stock strike sunders the target, so you want to get that on right away. Then your assault plastique puts a debuff on the target, so you want to put that on as soon as possible. And then you just kind of keep up your filler, and the filler revolves around keeping the reset of your high impact bullet, but we'll get into that a little bit later. The only other really important things for the discipline is you want to make sure you're using your sonic rebounder almost on cooldown, but especially in the middle of fights to protect other people and also protect yourself. This is a defense chance that is even better than the Jedi Shadows ability, so it's pretty solid. We also get defense to our self and AoE and stunned, which other classes have to take in utilities, but we get for free. And then our cell burst in 4.0 also puts a dot, so that's very helpful. Alright, get into utilities. First tier skillful. I like the movement speed by 15%, and this is in basically all of the fights you're going to be doing. And you could switch this off with muzzle augs, which basically means your tactical surge is a couple meters farther out, and your AoE attack is a little bit bigger. AoE attack I wouldn't really worry about too much, but the tactical surge lets you kite people a little bit better, but I would rather kite them better on all of my abilities with the movement speed increase than just being a little bit farther out of range. That's a personal preference. You have a little bit of leeway. Then the cooldown of hold the line is very nice, and your stun breaker, which is tenacity. And again, we don't really care about stuns as much because we get a little bit of damage reduction, but it's always nice to break and keep you up your DPS, especially during the fight. When I'm going against Tactics Vanguards on my other characters, I know that if I stun them, then I break up their DPS and their high impact bullet procs, and then I can beat them that way. So that's nice. The 4.0 ability I took, and this makes movement speed decrease, which is great for catching up to people when your hydraulics aren't up. Speaking of hydraulics, we take a longer duration of that. I think hydraulics got nerfed a little bit in 4.0, and this helps it make up for a little bit. It's great for kiting around, and we already saw that in our discipline it already cooled down, so now just between these two abilities it has a far bigger uptime. And then this I think is a mandatory for PvP, reflecting single target attacks back. That could be a 25k ambush. So a lot of times in fights, I'll be honest, I'm not great at putting this at the perfect time, but it has huge potential. Nothing else in this tier is great. It has a lot of weird sounding ones like the root on the stealth scan or the greater harpoon, but I don't really think anything else stands up to these two utilities. Then going quickly on to heroic, I tried out the new one, Blitz, and I was not impressed. If you have a bunch of dot classes, maybe you're a lot of focus, but I honestly think that when you are in the middle of the fight, when you're getting attacked, you don't need the speed boost. You need it when you're running up to someone. So I think this is a much better utility. You're really zipping along with all of your movement speed increases, and that's better. In our discipline, we get a couple extra shoulder cannons, so this has the potential to heal us up 35% of our health, which is fairly significant in PvP, especially if you don't have a healer on you. If you didn't want to take this, you could maybe take the damage reduction on battle focus because that's in the middle of the fight, but 5% isn't huge. If you're guarding a lot, a stun break on adrenaline rush is great, but for normal PvP, I'm not a big fan of guarding, and I don't usually guard, so I wouldn't necessarily want this. In the middle of the fight, we have our other damage reduction while stunned, so that's not as big a priority for me. Alright guys, the next segment is the rotation, and stay with me. It was a little hard to get at first, especially if you're used to other abilities or other classes' abilities. But this rotation basically revolves around your high impact bullet. You want to cast this every 4 moves, and you want to proc this every 4 moves, and you don't necessarily have to cast it as soon as you proc it because its proc lasts for a little bit. It can be procced by your sticky grenade, your high impact bolt, or your tactical surge, and so you basically want to be doing that every 4 moves. After that, you want to make sure you're putting your debuffs on your target, so that's why we have Assault, Plastique, and Gut a little closer down the rotation. And you also want to utilize your 6-piece or 4-piece set bonus that makes your Cell Burst crit after a Tactical Surge. So this was basically taken from Dolphy, except Dolphy wanted to pre-proc Explosive Surge, but I like the Sticky Grenade there for PvP because it adds a little bit extra burst and damage, especially as you're running into the fight. Alright. Speaking of running to the fight, this is how we do it. And if I do not recommend jumping in with a Storm because that takes a global cooldown. We have hydraulic overrides, so when you're at 30 meters, I would hit your hydraulic overrides, then your sticky grenade, assault plastique, and then gut can be in that window, and as you close them down, then you can DPS from there. What you're going to do is you're going to hit your sticky grenade, assault plastique, gut, and right around after the global cooldown for your gut, you want to hit your battle focus, and then when you hit your battle focus, I would start spamming the shoulder cannons as well. I didn't put them in there, but basically you just want to, there's two ways to use them. One is just to get a crazy big burst with your battle focus, which I recommend. Two, if you have a couple in the middle of the fight and you're at 100% health, maybe wait for your health to drop a little bit before you use it so you can regain some health, but I would use it as burst. Then high impact bolt. This was procced by your sticky grenade at the beginning. You use stock strike, which procs it again. Tactical surge, cell burst, high impact bolt. Again, because this was proc before, we can proc it again once with a tactical surge, high impact bolt, stock strike, and then you're at assault plastique again. So let's see how that goes. Also note that if your sticky grenade is off cooldown, and you can replace tactical surge for a sticky grenade for two reasons. One, you're out of range and you want to do a 30-meter range ability. Two, you want a bigger burst, which I also like to stack with the sticky grenade assault plastique combo. That works pretty well. And three, you just want that little bit of delayed damage or group AoE damage for this spec, which would benefit sticky grenade more than high impact bolt. Alright, so let's see how that goes really quick. Alright. Alright, so again, you after your battle focus right at the end of the cooldown, you want to be spamming your shoulder cannons. The next thing of importance is what we use in our utility, and these little energy loads make our cell burst crit more. So you want to make sure that's at 4 stacks. I think I did 0 when I started the fight, but you want to make sure it's at 4 stacks before you go in. I would not recommend if the doors open, like this is for PvP, right? So if the doors open and you could attack, join the fight, because your DPS will increase of you doing something rather than you just staying at the edge of the fight charging up your cell burst. I see a lot of Vanguards waiting by the doors, just outside the doors, and would rather charge up their cell burst than get into the fight, which is not what you should do. I found this class is very hard with heat management if you don't know what you're doing. A lot of times when I first started playing this spec, I would spam tactical surge a little more than I should, but as long as you keep this general rotation, you should be good. That being said, if you are after this beginner opener rotation, if you need to substitute your hammer shot for your tactical surge, I would definitely recommend doing that. It's a lot better to stay at the highest energy regain than to get one more tactical surge off. Basically, you just want to make sure that you're proccing your high impact bolt, so make sure you use tactical surge to proc your high impact bolt, but use hammer shot as a filler to maintain heat. Another thing that's important to talk about is you want to be using your taunts. I mentioned briefly that this gives you some defense chance. In my discipline, we took the rebounder, so this is definitely very good. Of course, you want to be throwing off your neural jolt. I really like throwing these at snipers or sages or all those other DPS classes, and worry about my DPS for the melee. Other important moves to talk about is your harpoon, and I would first, if you need to jump, first I would say your priority is to run in with hydraulic over or hold the line. Your second priority is to storm in, and your third priority is harpoon, because this has great utility in pulling healers away from tanks, and you should only use it when you really need to. And this has great potential also for help ball matches when you're pulling people into the fire, the acid, or just getting them away from the grip of the fight. But again, I would get in there with these two moves and save that for when you need it. The next two abilities are good if you know what you're doing. Recharge cell, again, this is your kind of move. Every class has it. You run out of energy, you're getting that little bit extra burst. You do use that. If I do the rotation, I'm usually good and I don't have to cast this too often, but in longer fights it's very helpful. Second is your reserve power cell, and please don't just use this in a panic when you have low heat on something like a stock strike, because that's wasting this ability's potential. I love doing the combo of reserve power cell and death from above. For example, if you're in a bunch of AoE and you're doing a bunch of AoE here, you're still proccing your stock strike, but you're getting very low on energy, it's getting to that kind of danger point, feel free to hit your reserve power cell and then channel a death from above. This ability now does no heat, so you're actually gaining energy for the full channel duration, and so that way you can maintain your DPS and regain your heat. And so using that combo is very important. Also, if you want to hit your group stun right before you do it, so you got people in your mortar volley, that's also works pretty well for me. Alright, the last thing to talk about is that in 4v4s, our class is one of the best classes for switching into tank stance. Have your ion cell on your toolbar so you can switch and guard your healer. I wouldn't recommend doing this all the time, but on some situations you want to do it, and so I just thought I'd throw it out there. Alright guys, that just about wraps up this video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something, and again, this was a request of the people who wanted to see this video. If you have requests of your own, feel free to tell me and I'll see what I can do. As always, thank you for the continued support. I just crested 200 subscribers this weekend, which is awesome. I'm really excited, and I'm glad that I'm getting up there in popularity. I hope to continue posting videos as much as I can, but thank you very much guys for all of your likes and subscriptions. It really helps me get the videos out there. And if for whatever reasons in this video you didn't agree with something, or think that maybe I missed something or didn't explain something very well, just hit me with a comment. I always like hearing other people's opinions on things, and since this was my instant 60 character I got with the expansion, I'm not as comfortable with it as my other ones, so I may be wrong in a couple of these things, but hopefully I'm right. I know people ask me about stats. I really don't feel like I'm the best person to talk about it, but I'll do my best. I would stack basically crit. You want to get the 6-piece setup bonus that helps with everything. You want to get the exemplar gear. I think I have my exemplar. Yeah, I have my exemplar main hand off man yet. I'll get the other ones, but I would aug crit, maybe a little bit of alacrity, but this class isn't as helped by it since we're not really channeling anything. So again, thank you very much guys. See you next time.